Welcome to Module 6, an Introduction to Human Research Ethics. This session provides an introduction to research and provides a foundation for ethical research practices. Further, this session provides a description of the responsibilities of those involved in research, including your role as a promotor or community health worker and member of the research team. We will go over some background history of why government regulations were designed to protect research participants. We will also discuss the various groups that are involved in making sure that research is carried out according to these regulations and the accepted ethical practices. We hope this information helps you better understand your responsibilities as a promotor, promotora, or CHW when conducting research in your communities. The following are the learning objectives for this module. At the end of this module, you will be able to define research and explain why it is important, know the differences between research studies and service projects, explain why government protections for research participants were established, name the 4 groups involved in protection of research participants, define 5 key areas of responsibility for a promotor when conducting ethical research practices, and apply one of the 3 principles of the Belmont Report. Let's start with an activity. A service project and a research study are synonymous. That is to say, they are the same thing. Is the answer A, true, B, false, or C, don't know? You may pause the slide here to answer the question with some thought. The answer is B, false, and we'll review that in a moment. A service project is different than a research study. However, they may look very similar as some of the tasks within both can be similar, and we will discuss the differences shortly. What is research? First, let's review the definition of research from our previous modules. It is important to define what we mean when we say research as opposed to services or clinical practice. First, we will define research before comparing it to service or clinical practice. Research is carried out to gain new knowledge or to answer questions about something that is currently unknown or not well understood. To conduct the research, a detailed plan is developed to gather the information we need to answer the research question or to learn more about the problem. The results or findings from the research is important because it provides us with information on how to improve the overall health of individuals in our communities. A specific community may be involved in research to learn more about practices that influence health or to answer questions about existing health problems in the community. What is a human subject? People involved in research studies are known as participants or human subjects. For the purpose of this training, it refers to people who take part in research as research participants. If a research study is designed to obtain knowledge of individuals within a community, members of that community are recruited as participants. As members of your community, participants provide information needed to answer research questions on behalf of the community. It is important for these people to understand what their involvement entails and to ask questions before or during their voluntary participation in the research study. Again, the people who participate in research studies are known as research participants or human subjects. According to federal regulations, the definition of a human subject is a living person through which a researcher, professional, or student conducting research obtains 1. Information through intervention or interaction with the person, or 2. Private identifiable information. For the purposes of this training, we will use the term research participants when referring to individuals who participate in a research study. At the beginning of the course, we discussed the protection of participants and the importance of maintaining integrity with regards to the personal information that is collected from each research participant. A research study can be designed in 2 ways. 1, to gain knowledge about individuals in a community, or 2, to understand a condition or phenomenon. If a research study is designed to obtain knowledge about people in a community, members of that community are recruited as participants. If a study is designed to understand a condition or phenomenon, individuals are recruited who represent those who are more likely to benefit from the answers to those specific questions. So, for example, if we are researching depression among women in the United States, the results of the study will help us understand the condition of depression, and interventions can be developed that benefit women with symptoms of depression. Lastly, through participation in research studies, the participants provide information necessary to answer the research questions while representing the community or group that is being studied. Service project versus research. A service project provides a service that is already known to be helpful to a community or an individual. A research study is conducted to gain new knowledge and may not directly benefit the participant. In addition to research studies, service projects are also carried out within a community. The primary goal of a service project is to benefit community or an individual with services that are known to be helpful. However, the primary goal of research is to contribute to scientific knowledge. The difference between a research study and a service project is that a service project provides a service that is already known to be helpful to a community or an individual. A research study is conducted to gain new knowledge and may not directly benefit the participant. A promotor involved in a service project knows that most people who receive the service will not benefit. A promotor involved in a research study cannot offer any guarantee that the participant will benefit from participation. In community-based research, it is sometimes difficult to know when a service or program has a research component. Service projects are similar to research in that they are both conducted in the community. The primary goal of research is to contribute to scientific knowledge. The information we gather during a research study may, in the end, identify a service or treatment that can be useful for that community or individuals in a certain population. The primary goal of a service project is to benefit a community or an individual with services that are known to be helpful. However, the primary goal of research is to contribute to scientific knowledge. The difference between a research study and a service project is that a service project provides a service that is already known to be helpful to a community or an individual. A research study is conducted to gain new knowledge and may not directly benefit the participant. A promotor involved in a service project knows that most people who receive the service will benefit. A promotor involved in a research study cannot offer any guarantee that the participant will benefit from participation. And as you'll see on the slide, service project, we know the services are known to be useful and the community's benefit has been established, while in research, we seek to create new knowledge and the benefit of the participant is uncertain. So this is an easy way to determine the differences. In community-based research, it is sometimes difficult to know when a service or program has a research component. Service projects are similar to research in that they are both conducted in the community. The primary goal of research is to contribute to scientific knowledge. The information we gather during a research study may, in the end, identify a service or treatment that can be useful for that community or individuals in a certain population. The primary goal of a service project is to benefit a community or an individual with services that are known to be helpful. However, the primary goal of research is to contribute to scientific knowledge. The difference between a research study and a service project is that a service project provides a service that is already known to be helpful to a community or an individual, and a research study is conducted to gain new knowledge and may not directly benefit the participant. A promotor involved in service project knows that most people who will receive the service will benefit. A promotor involved in a research study cannot offer any guarantee that the participant will benefit from participation. The information we gather during a research study may identify a service or treatment that can be useful for that community or individuals with a certain condition. Health and service professionals can encourage people to obtain services that they know will be effective. When participating in a study, it is important to remember that it is unknown whether the service or combination of activities that are being examined are useful. When research studies are conducted in community clinics, schools, or other community locations, staff or volunteers may be asked to assist with identifying participants who are eligible for the study. It is important that you know if you are involved in a research study or a service project, as the procedures for the study are different from those of a service project. Front page news. Over the past century, there have been problems with some research studies that resulted in severe harm and even death of participants. These harmful research studies brought the mistreatment of research participants to the public's attention, prompting the government to create a set of regulations for conducting research with human participants. 50 years ago, certain research studies were front-page news, such as World War II crimes and the Tuskegee syphilis study. These are examples of studies that prompted the development of federal regulations to protect human subjects. In 1932, the United States Public Health Service enrolled several hundred African American males infected with syphilis in a research study known as the Tuskegee syphilis study. At the time, there was no cure for syphilis. The purpose of the research study was to study the effects of syphilis on infected individuals over the course of their lives. In 1943, penicillin was discovered as a cure for syphilis. However, participants were not offered this treatment so that the effect of untreated syphilis could continue to be studied. This study was not stopped until 1973. Participants were never told that a treatment for syphilis was available. When syphilis is left untreated, it can result in death. Not offering an available treatment was unethical and violated the rights and welfare of the participants and their families. This study, as well as other harmful research studies, prompted the development of regulations to protect human participants in research. In July 1974, the National Research Act was passed, and federal regulations to protect participants were established. Now, all human research conducted with federal funds must follow these regulations. It wasn't until 1997 when President Bill Clinton formally apologized to the victims on behalf of the nation. Which leads us to the Belmont Report. Two primary sources for guidelines for the ethical research on humans are the Belmont Report and CFR. The Belmont Report describes 3 principles to guide the ethical research on humans, and we will discuss these next. Respect for persons acknowledges an individual's right to make an independent decision and protects those who are not able to make decisions on their own. Respect for persons occurs throughout an individual's involvement in the research study. For an individual to make a decision to participate, he or she should have adequate information about the study, should comprehend that information, and should not feel pressured to participate. Beneficence requires that possible harm to the participant be evaluated against potential benefits of the study. The research team follows the protocol to minimize harm to the participant and increase possible benefits that may occur to the individual and to the greater community. The principle of justice is about fairness. In research, it is important that the study results provide a meaningful information to all that can possibly benefit from the new knowledge gained. Individuals selected to participate in research should represent those who are most likely to benefit from the study results. The rights and well-being of participants are protected in research when these 3 principles are applied: respect for persons, beneficence, and justice. It is important for each person involved in research, such as government, institutional review boards, investigators, and participants, to become familiarized with these principles and know how they are applied. These ethical principles are demonstrated in research when the participants provide voluntary, informed consent, and the benefits of the study outweigh the risks. The confidentiality of research information is protected, and the participants are fairly selected. There are many people and groups involved in the ethical conduct of research, each with a specific interest in seeing that the research study is carried out correctly and that participants in research are protected. These groups include the federal government, the institution, the Institutional Review Board, and the principal investigator. The federal government provides leadership and support to institutions involved in human research. Institutions conducting federally funded research, such as universities or hospitals, have formal agreements stating that federally funded research will comply with federal regulations. The Institutional Review Board, or IRB, is responsible for ensuring that research conducted by the institution complies with federal regulations to protect the rights and welfare of research participants. The IRB members are investigators and members of the community. The IRB is guided by the ethical principles as set forth in the Belmont Report. All research studies involving human participants must be approved by the IRB before the research can begin. The principal investigator and the research team. The principal investigator is the person in charge of the research study and develops the research plan. The research plan, also called a protocol, must meet federal and institutional standards for conducting research. The protocol includes a complete description of the proposed research and discusses procedures for protecting the rights and welfare of participants in the study. The IRB can provide guidance to the principal investigator about how to develop the protocol. In addition to developing the protocol, the principal investigator is responsible for forming the research team. The research team may include a project manager, research assistants, and promotores or CHWs. The research team is responsible for carrying out the research study within the target community according to the protocol. The promotor or CHW, as a member of the research team, must communicate with the principal investigator or any supervising member of the research team when there are problems or concerns about how the study is conducted. The team may include a project manager, coordinator, assistants, promotores de salud, or other staff that support the project. The research team can vary from one person, a single investigator, to dozens of people. When a study is conducted within a community, the people who interact with the research participants have responsibilities to follow the research plan and improve the research protections such as the informed consent and protection of the participants' information. Community and people. The research participants are also shareholders, as they are the sample that represents a population with similar characteristics. And as you can see in the diagram, the participants are at the core, followed by the community, the research team, research institutions, funders, and policy, federal and state. And this is what we call the academic research ecological model. And as you can see, the promotores or CHWs cut across the core from participants, community, and research team. They are a critical research team member because they are the bridge between the participants, community, and the research team. When Congress signed the National Research Act, the government was required to develop and publish laws for the ethical treatment of human subjects, including requirements to obtain informed consent and the supervision of research under the Institutional Review Boards, or IRB. The federal laws related to the protection of human subjects can be found under Title 45, Part 46 of the Code of Federal Regulations, also known as 45 CFR 46. In fact, all researchers who conduct research with humans and who receive federal funding must comply with these laws. Ética. We will now focus on the role of the research team that interacts with the study participants. All of the research team members are responsible for conducting the research study according to the protocol of research plan to ensure the execution of ethical research practices. All of the members of the research team are responsible for knowing the purpose of the study and the activities that you may be asked to do as a member of the research team. To help you better understand these responsibilities and your role within the research study, the acronym ETHICS, or Ética, was created. There are 5 key areas of responsibility in ethics or ética, which are defined as follows. Enlace. It is your responsibility to serve as a link or a bridge between the research participants and the research team. Tres principios or 3 principles. It is your responsibility to keep in mind the 3 principles of respect for persons, beneficence, and justice as described in the Belmont Report. Integridad or integrity. It is your responsibility to understand and follow the research protocol to ensure the study is conducted correctly. And cultura or culture, it is your responsibility to know the language, traditions, and customs of the community. Atención or attention, it is your responsibility to pay attention to the details outlined in the research protocol and take the steps necessary to carry out your responsibilities. Now we will do an activity. A local clinic is conducting research to learn whether a new educational intervention to improve understanding of health insurance plans is effective in helping low-income community members understand their choices. You are a patient navigator who has expertise in insurance benefits and the enrollment process. The clinic director asks you to assist with delivering information about the new regulations for obtaining health care benefits. You are given information that the clinic wants you to share with members of the community during a local health fair. The clinic is collecting information from those who attend your presentation to see whether the materials are useful in helping community members learn about the health insurance options that are best for them. Is this a health research study or a service program? Describe why you think this is either a research study or a service program, and you can pause the video here so you can think a little bit about it. It is a research study, and as you can see with the highlighted red terms that indicate why this is a research study. And basically, in the description it says conducting research because they want to know if the intervention will improve understanding of health insurance plans and to see whether the materials are useful. And remember, a research study, we don't know if something works. That's what we're trying to figure out. We're trying to learn more about it. In a service project, we know that some of the interventions work. This is the end of Module 6. Take a few moments to stretch, and we'll see you in the next module.